On PM Express tonight, we are still on the Chereponi conflict. Why? Because we are beginning to assess the real impact. Yesterday, we began by having an expert, an all-expert view on the matter. Our analysts have been looking at the ways to get to the bottom of the matter and deal with it systematically but permanently. Today, the politicians have chipped in as well. Parliament is looking into it as well. And the thing about this is there isn't one size fits all to the Chereponi conflict. Thousands displaced, many already dead, women and children caught up in the midst of all this, and it's still an issue. Tonight, we're at a point where there is ceasefire on the back of the shuttle peace tour that the defense minister has undertaken over the last few days. And there is positive reports coming out of Chereponi tonight, but it's not time to drop the ball yet. We still want to show you a bit more of what we gathered when we were on the ground, filming the conflict and bringing it to you so you can appreciate it from wherever you are in this country. So in two sections, this show has been structured. One, we'll hear journalists from the point of view, from the lenses of my colleague, a reporter, a very neutral person, and you can see on the screens there already the damage as we've captured it. We're gonna look at this through the lenses of a journalist, and then right after that, we're going to explore the solutions with the political brokers themselves from Parliament, from the view of Parliament. They've been sitting and looking at the Chereponi conflict, and they're proposing ways of dealing with this as well. Yesterday, you heard the experts. Today, let's see if the MPs themselves, some of them coming from that part of the country, can also help the process going forward. Yesterday, we heard about the political undertones, and there's a reason why the defense minister was there yesterday and went with a whole host of other political players from both sides of the aisle, so we can show a united front going forward. That's a conversation. That's the second part of this. I want to start by bringing to you some of the impact as we've seen, which is not only yesterday did we see its impact on education, we're also seeing impact on health. And in the Chereponi Government Hospital, for instance, nurses have abandoned posts. One doctor left there with a few other nurses. Listen to the medical superintendent.
This is the main one. This is a district hospital, but we have health centers and then chiefs compounds in all the sub-districts. And you are taking care of all of these? I am actually in charge of here full time, but if there are any clinical issues in any of the districts, I'm called upon to sort it out. Okay. Yes. We want to find out how you're dealing with the conflict so far as a medical doctor here and the person in charge of the districts. Well, when the violence started, it started in the sub-districts. So you realize that most of the health workers who have to, most of them, they fled to the district for safety, and that is, for obvious reasons. So those in the sub-district will now be left with nobody to take care of them. Okay, and the shooting, started moving closer to the district here. So most of my nurses were also afraid, so they also had to leave. Okay, but most of the cases that we received from the areas where the violence were, we were able to manage them because they were not very serious. They were the gunshot wounds to the limbs. I think there was only one that was to the trunk, which we referred to Togo. There's a hospital just across the border, so we referred that case there. So most of them were able to handle. Okay. This was a very difficult situation. How many? Yeah. Yes, of course. I mean, most of our people, have not witnessed anything like this. So when they start hearing gunshots, you see the fear that gripped them, and and all that. So it's a difficult. How many nurses do you have, and how many of them have left? Majority of them have left. We have only 8 now at post. Over how many nurses? Over 62 nurses. And you have only 8? We have only 8 on duty now.
I came to hospital.
What's wrong with you?
I'm feeling headache, stomach pain.
Have they taken care of you already?
Yes.
Some of the nurses have left the hospital. How do you feel about that?
But some are around there. They've attended to us.
But those who have left, when you think about it, how do you feel?
We are not feeling good there, but and then they will come.
Who said they will come?
Yeah, people are saying.
And if they don't come, how will you feel about that?
They will not feel good though. They should try and come.
I feel afraid.
Why?
Because when me like this, I'm a student. I'm attending a Chereponi Senior High School. If you are there, then I will get up in the morning. We'll be hearing the gunshots. So we the students, we are here to learn. So because of that, if we hear the gunshot, we will be afraid. That we'll be scared. So those who are not from this place, they will be saying that they will go home. They will go home.
So now you come to the hospital. A lot of the nurses have left. Has it affected you?
Yes.
How is it affecting?
Because since I came here early, so because they are not there, like if they were to be there by now, I would have gone back to the house. So because they are not there,
Because who are not here?
the nurses, because the nurses they've left, it's affecting us.
So this is how the conflict affects lives. You would probably sit in Accra and elsewhere in the country. You haven't been to Chereponi before, and you've been hearing this conflict. It thinks it doesn't affect people's lives. It's about people. The voices you heard there are real lives being affected. We cannot talk about the situation in Chereponi without listening to these young children whose education is at risk. Watch.
We are not prepared because as the conflict is going on, we cannot have all that mind to learn.
How does this make you feel? You are a young man growing up. You've seen your elders, some of your leaders fighting among themselves. How does that make you feel as a young man?
It makes me feel sad when I saw them going to just fight with their own.
And if you have to advise them, I'm coming to you. If you have to, if you have an appeal to make to your elders and your leaders, those who are fighting among themselves, what will you tell? What kind of appeal will you make to them?
We will tell them to stop whatever that they are going to do. Because they're fighting us now. They say that we are going to, if you do not get 25, you will not go to school. We have to tell our parents and they will stop it.
If you get 25 in what? In the BC?
BC. You will go to school, but if you did not get it, you can't go to school.
So, what do you know about the conflict? I mean, do you know anything about it? Do you know why? What do you know about it?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Yes.
But how will this affect your future? How do you think this will affect your future?
Because if that thing happens, we cannot do anything.
Those of you who have not spoken, come. Okay, you come. How do you think this will affect your future?
Well, this conflict, the way it is, if you're in the house, you can learn. And as for me, I fear things bad, so because of this conflict, when I'm learning, I'm feeling fear in me.
You're feeling fear?
So I can't even learn, and I don't even know whether I'm very well prepared for the BC.
But now that you have to write the exams, it's just next month, so you have to write. How are you going to write it? I mean, do you know how many subjects you have covered so far? Which subjects have you covered?
Like science and maths, social, and then English.
So you spoke to me about fear. You say you are afraid. You're somebody, come forward. You're somebody who fears a lot. Now you have the fears of hearing gunshots or people fighting, and then there's also the fear of writing the exams. How are you going to manage these two and then write the exams?
Well, I'll just have to learn hard and pray to God so that I'll be able to write it and write it well.
Okay. Is there somebody else who wants to say something? Do you want to add something? You want to say something? Tell us your name.
My name is Amado Asia.
We are appealing to the two ethnic groups to please stop the conflict because it is really affecting we the candidates. As at now, when we are in our various houses, we cannot do anything about it. So they should please stop the conflict because this year the cut-off grade is grade 25. And as we are in the house, we cannot do anything. I'm crying because we are suffering. The government should do something about this conflict because it is really affecting we the BC candidates because the cut-off grade is grade 25. And if we are not learning what are we going to do in the BC? So we cannot do anything. So we please appeal to the two ethnic groups to please stop the conflict. And the government should do something about it so that it will help with the BC candidate to get what he wants in the near future.
So this is the story of Chereponi tonight. We will be repeating this until those adults who are fighting listen to their children calling for peace. Gifty and Apea, you had her doing the interviews there, is with me in the studio. She's spent the last few days in Chereponi on the ground there, watching things for herself. Gifty, you saw a lot whilst you were there. Yeah. One of the things that you just was telling me that struck you was it the extent to which the feuding factions will go, just so that they can have their way to either kill more people, to burn more houses without being stopped by the security forces that that the state had deployed to deal with the situation.
Yeah. So let me just start from an attempt to break down a bridge. When I heard the story, I thought it was a wooden bridge, actually. So there's a town called, yesterday where we were, called Garikuka. Garikuka is a stronghold of the Kokuma people. So yesterday the minister went there, and so we got the chance to go there. But initially, if you're asked to be taken there, they'll tell you that, well, that place is not one of the areas that you want to go at the moment. Whilst we were going, I had heard that there was a roadblock, but when we got there, we realized that the roadblocks have been, you know, kind of dismantled. So there's a contractor who is building, constructing a road there, and he has equipment, heavy duty equipment, and I've forgotten what the name of the things that they use to make gutters, the big drains.
Yeah, the culverts?
Culverts. So he had culverts there, and then they had used these culverts and the equipment to block the road. And the soldiers were telling me that they did this earlier on, and then when they came out of the bush and then they tried to block the road because they were preventing them from coming
They're preventing the soldiers.
The soldiers from coming to the place, Garikuka, because it's like their stronghold. Now when we went in there...
So what you're saying is, the culverts that were being used to build the bridge.
Yeah. No, the culverts, I guess it will be used for the drains because the contractor is working on the road. Okay. It's a rough road.
So they remove the culverts and use it as a roadblock.
Yes. Including the other equipment that they're using to work there. Because the contractor apparently fled. When it started,
so he abandoned the stuff there.
The stuff there.
So they use equipment to sort of block access to the town.
Because
so that the soldiers cannot have access.
Cannot have access. They can't drive through. Essentially, if you can come through, then you're probably going to go you're going to walk.
But why don't they want the soldiers in?
So the soldiers or the security operatives on the ground had told me that the people did not want them to come in there. But when we went in there, the people said, and at this time they were talking to the minister, they said they did that to protect themselves. Why? Because they claimed that the soldiers were not being fair to them. That's their claim, that soldiers were not being fair to them, and so they blocked the...
They must have had a lot of suspicion.
There is a lot of suspicion. There's a lot of suspicion. And even the security operatives have their own suspicions about the people because it's as if the people don't really want to trust them. Even though they are there to protect them, essentially. They feel the people don't trust them. The people feel they're not there for them. Some of them feel they're not there for them. And so there is that mistrust. Same as the mistrust between the two factions, the feuding factions. Chokosis don't trust the Kokumbes. Kokumbes don't trust the Chokosis. So even though we're working with this ceasefire, is still a little fragile.
Yeah. The minister has been trying to meet the people. I wonder what was the reaction had been to him from the people he's been meeting generally. What vibes do you get Because he's tried a lot. He's met many people.
Yes.
What vibe did you get in terms of how they are reacting to him?
Before I get to the vibe, there's just something that on the Gary Kuka Road that I wanted to talk about. I was telling you about a bridge, and that there was an attempt to break a bridge. And when I heard, I thought it was a wooden bridge, like I said, but it's a concrete bridge. And I was wondering how anybody will think, anybody in the world would think they could break it. But they had started breaking it, so you could see a little bit of chips, you know, the part of the bridge chipped off. So, but I mean, it was going to take like, I don't know how long to break that particular bridge. But
and this is a bridge that is over what? Bridge is what? Is it water?
Yes, but it's not so big.
Okay.
It's not so big, but it's essentially a bridge that makes it easier for vehicles to move.
Access,
yes,
the next town.
Access.
Okay.
So there's this attempt to break the bridge in the first place, and of course they weren't successful because it's a concrete bridge. It's going to take a long time. And so you go a little beyond that bridge, and then you see the roadblock, you know, the roadblock that they made.
All in an attempt to stop the soldiers from getting in.
So apparently to stop the soldiers from getting in, that's from the security operatives, and then from them to protect themselves from both the Chokosis.
So the Chokosis can get to them?
Yes.
Because that's the only access route to them?
Yes.
But this is fascinating, such that a bridge, you think, in many parts of the north where bridges are so essential, they are lifesavers. And an investment has already been made to build the bridge for them. And they want to break it. And they are investing their energies in destroying the bridge. Just because of the conflict.
And this is not just, then this is talking about the Kokuma side.
Yes.
On the Chokosi side, we've heard the same story as well. Only thing is that we were able to get to Gary Kuka because the minister was going there, so we went there. But I wasn't able to go to a place like Wenchiki, which is also a Chokosi stronghold. But when the minister met them, the Kokumas, they complained that they have also prevented them from coming to Chereponi. And Chereponi is a district capital. But in Chereponi, you have a lot of Chokosis there. It's Chokosi, a Chokosi area. So they are complaining that Chokosis also say, the Kokumas also say that Chokosis are preventing them from coming to Chereponi, and they can't come because when they come, they feel they will be attacked. And I've heard about roadblocks as well on that side, except I did not see them. The ones that I saw are the ones I'm talking about.
Finally, I'm curious to know what the ordinary people's reactions have been to the minister. Because I think it's fair to say now there's ceasefire. We haven't had any reports of gunfire. Because sometimes immediately there's gunfire, they call us. They'll call you, and they'll reach out. But we haven't had that. So there's some ceasefire. But on the ground, whilst you travel with the minister, what sort of reaction did his visits get?
I think that it's, from my perspective, it's been indifference.
Okay.
I think it's been indifference. The minister himself is a Kokuma person, so I get the feeling that when he gets to the Kokuma people, some way, somehow, they get a bit excited. But there are people who get angry. Now, let me tell you about Naja. There's a town called Naja. It's Kokuma dominated. When he went there on Friday, it was one of the places he went. Before he got there, there was an arrest. The assemblyman for the area apparently had been arrested. The reports were that he had been on the wanted list of the security operatives, and they found him with some ammunition, and so they arrested him. But the story kept changing. So when the minister got there to Naja, the first thing they said was that we have heard, we knew you were coming, but this morning something unfortunate happened. We've heard that our assemblyman has been arrested, and we were expecting you to bring him, to free him and bring him, but you have not done that, so we are not happy. And they say this, I mean, it's usually frank. Conversations are usually frank.
This is an open conversation.
Yes. And the media is there, everybody is there, the soldiers are there.
They expected the minister to release him and bring him.
Yes, that's what they said. And they said, we are not happy. When he went to Chereponi and he met with the Chereponi,
where the Chokosis dominate.
Yes. When he met them, he said, they also said, well, we have heard that this morning there has been an arrest of a Kokuma person from Naja. He's an assemblyman. We also heard that you have ordered for the person to be released. If that is the case, we are also demanding a release of all Chokosis who have been arrested.
And this was also told to the minister in the open.
It was, and we have those. I mean, those videos are there. We can, you know, we just arrived yesterday, so we've not been able to put all of those things together. But those videos are there. And he said, we're also asking that all the Chokosis that have been arrested by the security agencies, let them be released. So there was a response from the regional minister, the Northeast minister, who said, the gentleman, yes, we also heard that he's been arrested, but we have no hand in this. The security operatives will do their work, etc. So there are frank engagements, if I can put it that way, frank engagements between them. They speak their mind. And there are times that some people, you know, the leaders, as in the local leaders, will try to stop someone from saying something, and the minister himself or the people he came with, they will say, no, let him speak, you know. And then they go. I get the sense that sometimes people are indifferent. There is still a lot of anger. And in these meetings, they have not hesitated to highlight the fact that they're angry. They have not hesitated to highlight the fact that they will defend themselves, so to speak, if anybody tries to attack them. But I think it's been positive. There are times that he will, you know, engage them in the local language, and we don't understand what they're saying, but you hear a lot of applause. Yes, and you get a lot of applause. There will be, you know, and then he will ask them something, and then they will respond. I don't know, but I guess it means, is it not true? And they'll say, it's true. Is it not true? And then they'll say, it's true. And then at some point, there'll be a leader who would say, he says something, and there'll be a leader who will say, so, and I get the feeling that he's saying, clap for him. And then because I see them, you know. So it's a mixture of indifference, a little bit of anger, and some way, somehow, maybe some optimism as well.
Gifty, thank you very much. So that is a story from the ground, from a journalist's point of view. And there are several efforts underway to try and deal with this. The minister has finished with his. The minister himself has invited everybody else to engage in a more permanent manner post his visit. Today, the Defense and Interior Ministry, Defense and Interior Committee in Parliament have taken up that challenge. They've been meeting on this. We're going to take a short break. When I return, I'm going to have the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, James Agaga, who is a former Deputy Interior Minister, and we'll also be joined in the studio by the Deputy Chairman of that committee, Collins Owusu-Amankwah, as we delve into what the House, Parliament can do to help the process along. Stay with us here on PM Express. Joining me now is the former Deputy Interior Minister, James Agaga. He is the ranking member on the Defense and Interior Committee, and he's in the studio with me. Also with me tonight is he's the chairman of the Government Assurance Committee, but he's also the deputy chair of the Defense and Interior Committee, Collins Owusu-Amankwah. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. James, so has Parliament just resumed? Has this come to the attention of the committee, and the committee do anything about it?
Yes, Evans, good evening to your cherished viewers. Yes, the Chereponi crisis has come to the attention of the Committee for Defense and Interior. Not just today, but previously when the conflict broke for the first time, we were privy to the unfortunate happenings in that part of the country. But now I think matters have come to a head, and the committee thinks the time is right for us to invite the ministers responsible for the management of our nation's security.
Who would these be?
First and foremost, the Minister for the Interior,
okay,
the Minister for National Security, and the Minister for Defense, okay. Given the role the Defense Minister has played in recent times, it is appropriate that we engage him as well.
Okay, so they're going to come before the committee?
Absolutely.
Okay, this is not going to be in the plenary? It's going to be just committee?
No, at the level of the committee.
In camera?
Yes. And then after our interaction with them, if needs be, we might put together a report and submit the report to the plenary.
Mr. Amankwah, why in camera?
Well,
because this is part of the problem is communication.
Let me join my colleague to also say hi to your cherished viewers. As a committee, we are mandated by the orders of Parliament and also the Constitution to, as it were, examine all issues relating to defense and security in general. Of course, National Security Minister was programmed to have engaged the committee this morning, but we were told that due to certain issues, he wasn't able to make it, so we had to reschedule it to Friday at exactly 9 o'clock. That's where we're going to engage him. Of course, to deliberate on the annual report of the national security, of which the issue of
now?
Chereponi conflict would be featured prominently.
Okay.
Yes.
That's an interesting point, but I know that has been a subject of some controversy. His colleague, Okudzeto Ablakwa, had raised that matter, had threatened legal action and all.
Well, Okudzeto is not working with our committee.
I know, but I'm just curious. Is that report ready now?
Yes, ready. That's why he has been programmed.
I see.
As it were.
He has submitted it?
No.
Or he's coming with it?
Exactly. To deliberate on the annual report. Yes.
No, Evans, the report has finally been submitted to Parliament.
But you raised it.
After we had threatened the minister with a suit, we actually served him the 30 days mandatory notice, statutory notice of our intent to sue. And before the expiration of the 30 days notice, the minister came to Parliament and gave us the assurance that he was going to honor his statutory obligations. He has since done that. And so what we're going to do now is to consider the report at the level of the committee. So, but for the steps we took, Evans, our ability to exercise oversight over the particular sector minister would have been non-existent.
But that's
no,
true,
Evans, honestly, we are privileged. Of course, we are in leadership. And we've been briefed by the minister himself on many occasions. So,
but that doesn't equate to the legally prescribed report. Briefing you is...
No, we were finished with the report, but because the matter borders on national security, you and I know some are very sensitive and delicate, and you can't disclose everything. And I know that Rankin is aware of all these arrangements. So sometimes, but that is a gaga for you. But you engage him in Evans, camera, and by the time you say Jack, then he's on the floor.
But Evans, no, that is unfair. Evans, I've not disclosed any
no, but you said you
content.
Threatened. That's what you said.
No, but that's public knowledge.
But that is true.
Yeah, that's public knowledge. They are threatening you with legal suit.
I stood down as ranking member. I acted as counsel to Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. That is a fact.
Very well.
Yeah. So you're not pursuing the suit anymore?
No. He's honored his obligation. So the matter would be moot if we were to go to court. Yeah, it would be moot.
Okay.
Because the report is with us now.
Okay. So the committee. So you expect that this committee report that you would get to review with him on Friday will include a Chereponi update and what they've done about it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
But you've watched the conflict, and it's claimed so many lives. It's raging. The president was there, spoke about it, it left, it erupted. The defense minister is there, he's just left. There is ceasefire, though, because since he left, no gunshots. We haven't had any reports of gunshots, so that is positive. First, your comment on his moves to try and
bring... first of all, let me commend your reporter, from your security desk. What is the name?
Gifty,
yes. For such a detailed, fact-finding documentary, I'm enthused with. Notwithstanding, once we live in society, conflicts are bound to happen.
Yeah.
But the approach to the resolution of such conflicts is what matters most. From where I sit, we've gone through certain stages, and we've also passed certain stages. The issue of negotiation has already been exhausted from the early days of the conflict.
Has been exhausted?
Yes.
When it's in negotiations, explain.
Yes, and my position now is to resort to an independent arbitrator to resolve the matter once and for all.
That's what you want?
No, the process. Of course, when it comes to dispute resolution, there are process. It depends on the one you want to employ. Clearly, the issue of good office, of course, calling on the third party to guard the process. Mind you, January, the government set up a 5-member fact-finding committee to, as it were, come out with how best to resolve the matter. Notwithstanding, we've not been able to, as it were, secure the kind of results that we are all anticipating. So for me, we should allow the feuding parties to, as it were, select their own arbitrators, engage them, let them engage in undertaking. Then it becomes binding on all of them. If not, we are joking.
But I thought, so first give me your assessment of the work that the defense minister has done over the last few days.
Well, to me, I think
he's just going to come before you,
strenuous effort to, as it were, make sure that we find lasting solution to this very...
But you think that's not enough?
Conflict. Listen, he led a delegation of about 40 people, of which 18 of them are Chokosis, and 16 are also concubines. Yes, I mean prominent people, including their Accra chief for Chokosis and also Ashama chief for Chokosis. All of them were part of the delegation with the sole idea to mediate in terms of laying down their weapons.
Yeah.
Yes, that is the mediation process. But from where I sit and from where we've reached, I think we should allow the conflicting parties to select, to choose those that they have reposed confidence in them, those that they trust, so that we engage 2 arbitrators, sign undertaking. If we fail at that stage, then we legislate, and that is the last process.
How do you legislate over conflict?
Yes, because it's a process, it's steps. Once we've gone past negotiation, good office, by engaging the third party to guard the process, then you come to the issue of committee or commission of inquiry. Of course, government has done that. We couldn't succeed. Now, from where I sit, we've reached arbitration. And if arbitration fails, then we go for legislation through bylaws to make sure that we force them to accept the resolution that we are no more interested to hear anything of that sort in the area.
James?
Yeah, if I was just to start with, from the outset, was a bit skeptical about the
defense minister's
the role of the defense minister. But having spoken to the defense minister and understood quite well the initiative he embarked upon, I think that he deserves some commendation for his effort. I initially thought that he had led a government delegation to try to foster peace in the area. But subsequently, I gathered that he actually brought together leading Chokosis, chiefs, and as well as concumbers. And so together,
even including political leaders on both sides.
On both sides, yes.
And some are former appointees.
Yes, I think that that initiative was
the late president's government.
That initiative was commendable, and so once they arrived in the conflict zone, they were able to inspire confidence in the people. The result is that they have been able to broker a ceasefire.
Yes.
And so I think they just didn't leave empty-handed. They managed to chalk some success in getting the ceasefire in place. Having said that, I mean, that is a short-term measure. In the long term, I think we should be looking to resolve the remote causes of the conflict.
What are they?
Government made some attempt sometime in January when the Minister for the Interior put together a 5-member committee led by the former Inspector General of Police, Mr. Patrick Achampong, that committee was supposed to conclude its work within a month. They have since submitted a report, and yet not even the feuding factions know what the recommendations of that committee
In fact, the regional minister, the first day or so when a defense minister got there, made an appeal that government should implement the report.
Absolutely.
And one of the main recommendations was put police posts in some of the areas where they don't have it. They just don't have any security police.
Well, so this is new. It took them a long time to bring to the fore, put in the public domain what the recommendations of the committee were.
Nobody knows other than the minister who said it.
Yes, in fact, I have listened to members of the feuding factions complain that they would be very excited if the government were to release the outcome of that committee's work so that they can all be guided. It is not for nothing that government in its own wisdom put together that committee. So after about a month, 2 months, 3 months down the line, the committee has submitted its findings. What are they waiting for? Is it the case that they are not interested in finding a lasting solution to the problem? That's why they are sitting on the report. No, please. So it's important that government puts out there the report of that fact-finding committee and follow through with the implementation, because they have definitely made some recommendations with a view to ensuring lasting peace in the area. So the report should be made public. Secondly, government should follow through and implement the findings. The recommendations. Yes.
You disagree with that? I beg to differ on this position. Making the report public is not sufficient to, as it were, resolve the matter.
Why?
Why?
He didn't stop that though. He says make it public and then...
For me, I would have asked, has the report been made available to the feuding factions?
No.
That would be my position.
But that's the answer to you. The answer is no, it hasn't been.
Why?
You are the deputy chair of the committee.
Fantastic.
And you are from the ruling government.
So what I'm saying is, of course, from what I said, I know that leading members of conflicting parties,
they don't have it.
They have been briefed. They've been briefed about some of the recommendations. So how come that
it's different from having the report.
So how come that you heard it?
No, because when the minister, we sent a report to him.
So what I'm saying is,
and the minister said
they've been briefed. Personally, I have kept in touch with the chairman of the committee.
But being briefed on the same as having the report.
That is what I'm saying, that some of the leading members of the conflicting parties are in the know of this particular report. Yes, it's supposed to be confined.
So why is government not implementing it?
It's a process. No, it's a process. It's a process. You see, sometimes you can't just compare people to do certain things. You need to be more strategic. Mind you, we are dealing with human beings, and as complex as our nature is, there are certain things, if you want to implement or execute, must be backed by certain mechanisms, of which that is what the government is doing.
What mechanisms?
Mechanisms which include making sure that you rope the traditional authorities.
Have they been?
Yes. Yes. There are certain things that the government is doing that we've not disclosed to the public. The issue borders on security.
It does?
Yes. So you can't disclose everything. I can't disclose every information here. But how to resolve it is what matters from where we are. And that is the way
are you satisfied with the way it has been handled from the
Well, I have made my position known that I think we should resort to independent arbitrator to resolve this matter once and for all, so that the position will rather come from the feuding faction. This protracted feud I mean, has been in existence for many, many years.
Yeah. Was there when Agaga was there?
Come again.
Chereponi was still an issue under your watch.
Yes, when you were the deputy
Not
minister.
not quite.
No, there was some.
No.
Chereponi had been raging for
yes,
for
quite
years.
some time, but no, not that I remember. We dealt with Bimbila.
Yeah.
Of course, the
Bimbila Saboba district.
No, sorry, the Dagbon crisis, yes, was also an issue at the time, but Chereponi was not one of the issues. We had Bungpurugu, the Bungpurugu conflict was also one that we dealt with. I personally flew there a couple of times. I was in Bimbila, I was in Bungpurugu, but Chereponi was not an issue.
There's something that you had said, though, to us, I think today or yesterday, about, and other people have raised it. Yesterday, we did a show here on the same matter, but we're, experts from ONEB, from Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Center, etc. And you also repeated it, which is that the defense minister, because of his perception of, not even perception, he is a Kokumba. And that creates perception issues in an attempt to bring peace to an area. Some have said recuse himself from the process. In fact, you backed that, right?
Yeah.
Having spoken to him and he's explained to you, you've commended him.
That's right.
Do you still stand by that?
Yes, absolutely, I do. Before I spoke with the minister, yes, I labored under the wrong impression that he had actually led a government delegation.
Yeah.
But when I spoke with the minister himself, it was very clear that the delegation he led was not a government delegation, so to speak, because the composition of the delegation included members from the feuding factions, the political class of either side of the conflict, including the member of parliament for Chereponi, who is coming from our side. I mean, he's an NDC member of parliament, the member for Saboba, who is also coming from the NPP side. So they all flew together and went there. I thought that that was a step in the right direction. So my initial apprehension that Mr. Nituwu, who is himself a Konkumba, had he been assigned the task by government to mediate in the conflict, definitely the perception about bias would arise. But in this particular instance, that was not the case. Because the very composition of the delegation itself was such that Mr. Nituwu was not the only one who addressed the feuding factions. The Chokosi leaders had the opportunity to address their own people and Konkumbes as well. Mr. Nituwu and other Konkumba leading members also had the opportunity to address either side of the conflict. That being the case, I think that I would have since changed my position. I thought he was the one appointed by government to mediate in the process. But this was actually a move which was aimed at brokering a ceasefire. They have largely been successful in that regard. And so I think that I am full of commendation for them.
Well, I subscribe to
this is huge grin on his face as you were speaking.
Of course, that has been my position.
Yes.
That Minister for Defense, who doubles as the MP for Bimbila, I mean, he has been for MP for many, many years. For him to recuse himself because he's a Konkumba, and you think it's enough to pave way for peace to prevail. So if not a Konkumba man leading the delegation, then a moderate or a Chokosi, or let's say an Asante or Everman, would that resolve the matter once and for all? No. There is more to that. There is more to that. We must make sure that the people themselves come out, that this is how we want to resolve the matter. So we back them. And based on that, I think the matter will be resolved once and for all. And let me also state it, that personally, I share some of the comments made by Dr. Kwesi Eni. Yes. in connection or for the declaration of the cost of the conflict.
Okay.
I mean, just to see the socio-economic impact of the conflicting zone and also the state as a whole. Do you know how much it costs to keep one soldier in the conflict zone? We ought to be serious in this country. There can't be development without peace. I think that going forward, we should prefer stiffer punishment for those who are fond of fomenting trouble in Chereponi and Saboba district. We should also not limit the investigation to the conflict zone, but to extend it in the other parts of the region. For all we know, Evans, there could be a third party sitting somewhere.
Financing the process. Yeah.
Financing the project. So we should all, watch out.
Yeah, and on that point, Nagaga, because you've been at the Interior Ministry before, and you've dealt with many conflicts in that general part of the country, guns, the sort of guns that my colleague Gipsy saw, AK-47, pump-action guns. Of course, there are those who have the locally manufactured ones, and those who have the ones for hunting. Yeah. Where are these guns coming from? Who is buying it for them? If even they're buying it, how are these guns getting in there?
Evans, you know, our borders are porous.
I've heard that many times. So we know that problem. I mean, okay, so maybe I should put the question. Apart from the ones crossing the borders, apart from the ones that they manufacture by the blacksmiths,
that's right.
Yeah. How else is the gun getting it? Because if we know these, it's easy to stop it.
It's not that easy.
Why is not? Evans,
our borders are not well defined. I mean, if you know the geography of the Chereponi area very well, it borders the
Togo.
Republic of Togo. Burkina Faso is not too far away. You know, I mean, the sub-region in general, it has suffered from so many conflicts. Côte d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, I mean, is having to deal with the threat of terrorism. It's a daily occurrence in Burkina Faso, Liberia, Sierra Leone. These are countries that went to war. So the sub-region itself is awash with small arms and light weapons. So it's very easy to smuggle those arms across borders. And Ghana hasn't been an exception. Ghana is a transit zone for the transshipment
but it's
of
costing
those
us.
weapons.
What can we do to fix it? What, because you've been there, what did you try to do?
Well, Evans, first of all, you recall that the northern region, now of course the northeast region has been carved out of the northern region in the Savannah region, went to war in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So the area became, you know, very attractive for people who deal illegally in small arms to move in there and trade in those arms. Now, after the conflict, I don't think we have been very successful as a country to clean up that part of the country.
And Mark Wayongo, I remember you tried
a
buyback scheme.
Yes.
Bring back your gun for money.
That's right.
It didn't really work.
Well, it worked to some extent.
Are you sure?
Yes. Quite a number of weapons were recovered and destroyed. But that attempt was not actually the only solution to the problem.
So what do we do now with the time running?
I think that as a country we must intensify our efforts. I mean, troops. We must make troops unannounced. We must also talk to the people to voluntarily surrender. We must continue to mark our weapons so that we can track and trace. I mean, these are some of the methods.
The interventions you recommend.
But above all, we must also improve upon our conflict resolution mechanisms. Once you don't have conflict, people don't have need for arms. So it becomes less attractive to invest in arms. But when there is conflict, it's attractive to invest in arms. Because that way, with arms, I mean, you can defeat your enemies, so to speak. So if we invest in improving upon our conflict resolution mechanisms, the Peace Council, etc., let us give them the wherewithal to operate efficiently. I'm sure we'll be able to deal with the issue.
Collins, your final thoughts on this?
Well, I think we have a legislation to that effect.
We have too many laws. Nobody's implementing it. Nobody's enforcing it.
Well, institutions have been mandated to, as it were, play a specific role. And I think we need to empower a commission on small arms and light weapons to, as it were, come out with a credible database on guns or illicit guns in the system. I mean, it has become source of worry because proliferation of small arms or illicit gun ownership is still on ascendancy as a result of people, I mean, trying to smuggle arms into the system through unapproved routes. So we need to tighten our borders. We need to ensure that we sanitize the system. Not everybody must be entitled to hold a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, we must...
The rules are there, the laws are there, just have to follow it. Colleagues, I'm grateful that you joined us. James, I'm grateful that you joined us as well. All the best. But thank you very much for joining us here on PM Express. Tomorrow, we'll come your way with an edition. If you are in that part of the country, you've heard the impact. It's very devastating. There's no reason for you to keep on destroying lives and fighting. The only way to develop is through peace. And so embrace it. Enjoy the rest of the evening.